Welcome back to the Snow Point Cast. Today we're going to be taking a look at a deck from Majestic Dawn to Call of Legends, Vilegar. So Vilegar actually won the UK Nationals in this format in 2012. Kind of an interesting format because it's one of the only UK Nationals, and there's a couple other European Nationals that was the only tournament that this is ran in. But this deck actually happened to win UK Nationals. Yassine Sakoum, Samus Sakoum's brother, happened to win it. So yeah, we're going to go over the deck. Not his exact list, but a little bit of a variation on that. I did get one of the techs from him, which I'm going to talk about when we get to it. So starting off with the 4 Gastly, you play the 50 HP Gastly from Stormfront. It's got a single retreat. Pitch Dark is the reason you play this guy. So for free, your opponent can't play any trainer cards from his or her hand during their next turn. So just great free trainer lock. You don't really have any reason not to do this if you start with it, even if you have an energy, honestly. I'm mostly Pitch Darking before I Trick Gas just because it's so good. I mean, it's situational. If you have a Spiritomb on the bench, I guess Trick Gas is better, but Pitch Dark, really, really solid attack. Trick Gas, not so bad either because of Spiritomb. So Trick Gas for 1 Psychic does 10, and then you can switch Gastly with one of your bench Pokemon. And then you play 2 of this Haunter. So this guy is from one of the Heart Gold Soul Silver sets. I'm not sure which one. I think maybe Undaunted. So 70 HP, Psychic type, free retreat, which is really nice. Sneaky placement for 1 Psychic, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So not a bad 2 drop for 1. And then Sleep Poison for 2 colors. The defending Pokemon is now a Sleep and Poison. Not really using that attack very often, but good in some clutch situations, I guess. I was playing one of this guy. So this is the Haunter from Stormfront. 80 HP is the main reason you play it, just because you have that out against Luxchomp. If you want to evolve with a Spiritomb, and then you're not just a Luxray and a Crobat away from getting knocked out with your Haunter. So that's the main reason that you play this, but also Hoodwink is not bad. But before we get to that, Smog for free. The defending Pokemon is now poisoned, so that's actually not bad. Turns off powers, which can be really useful. And then also Hoodwink, so for 1 Psychic it does 30, and then you may search your opponent's discard pile for up to 3 in any combination of Trainer, Supporter, and Stadium cards and put them into your opponent's hand. So that's really great because of this Gengar. So Gengar's got 110 HP. This is a Stormfront Gengar. Psychic type, free retreat as well. Fainting spells the power. So once during your turn, or during your opponent's turn, if Gengar will be knocked out by damage from an attack, you may flip a coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon is knocked out. So that's a great power. It's so good against everything, just, you know, trading prizes evenly. If you flip heads on every fainting spell, it's so hard to lose the game. That doesn't happen all the time. Very rarely it happens, actually. But even just having that 50-50 odds, if you're flipping 50-50 on fainting spells, it's really, really solid. Especially because of the low energy investment you need for these guys to make them effective. So speaking of low energy investment, Shadow Room for 1 Psychic, put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If that Pokemon has any powers, put 6 damage counters on it instead. So being able to drop 6 damage counters for 1 is really, really good. Just good energy exchange, and you can snipe anywhere on the board if it has a power. So really great first attack. And then Poltergeist is the main attack of the deck, and also has the it's the synergy with Hoodwink rather. So for Psychic colorless, Poltergeist does 30 times the number of trainers in your opponent's hand. So with Vileplume, there's a ton of synergy with those 2 attacks, and we'll get to Vileplume in just a moment. But before that, we're going to talk about the Gengar Lv.X, because you do play one of these guys as well. So Gengar Lv.X, 30 HP buff, which is really nice, 140 HP. Free retreat, keeps that retreat. And then Level Down, which is a really, really good power. The main reason you play it, Compound Pain is actually pretty good too, but Level Down is like really, really solid. So once during your opponent's turn before you attack, you may choose one of your once during your turn before you attack, you may choose one of your opponent's Pokemon Lv.X and remove the level up, and they shuffle it into their deck. So being able to take that HP off can be a really, really big deal, especially because, like, let's say there's a Garchomp Lv.X, you're able to 2-shot that anyway. But if there's some Lv.X's, like a Dialga, you really don't want them to have that power, Dialga Lv.X, or that body rather, to shut off your bodies. So you can just level down and then you retrainer lock them, which is really nice. So force them to find that again if they want to have trainers back. And then Compound Pain for Psychic colorless. This attack does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon that has damage counters on it. So kind of a good end game finisher attack depending on what the board is, but mostly using this guy for level down. You're also playing Vileplume line, because Vileplume is super good. I love every art in this line. It's by Mitsuhiro Arda, who is a god at art. So the Oddish, super cute. 40 HP, grass type, single retreat. For 1 colorless, it does 10 ram, and then Find a Friend, which we don't play grass for, so it doesn't matter. So you can ram for 10 with this guy. And then also Gloom, you play one of, so 80 HP. Grass type, single retreat. Can't use the attacks, we're not going to talk about it, but the art, very nice. And then also 2 Vileplume, just because of the body on this guy. So 120 HP, grass type, 2 retreat, goes up by 1. So the body is each player can't play trainer cards from his or her hands. You can play supporters still, but no trainers, which is a really big deal. Being able to lock trainers is deadly against candy decks, and it shuts off a lot of decks in the format. And it's one of the reasons that Vilegar is one of the best decks in the format, if not BDIF, because Allergy Flower is such a good body. Okay, so in that vein, Spiritomb also trainer locks. So 60 HP, dark type, single retreat. So the Pokebody on Spiritomb is Keystone Seal. As long as Spiritomb is your active Pokemon, each player can't play trainer cards from his or her hand. So essentially the strategy of the deck is you Spiritomb, you set up your board, whether it's a Vileplume, Gengar, whatever, and then as soon as you're ready to start attacking, you retreat the Spiritomb or let it die or whatever, and then you start attacking with your Gengars. And then you have trainer lock for the whole game, which is really, really good. Super solid strategy, and it's one of the reasons the deck is so good, is because you have so many options for trainer lock in the Gastly, the Vileplume, and the Spiritomb. So Darkness Grace is also a really good attack on Spiritomb. So for free, search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon, and then you put a damage counter on Spiritomb. So great attack for free, and it lets you set up so easily. If you have a Bebe search in your hand, you go Spiritomb, Darkness Grace for the stage 1 of a basic that I have, and then you can Bebe search for the next card and then have a stage 2 on turn 2, which is really, really good. You're also playing some more support Pokemon. So you play 2 Uxie just because it's got really good draw, and you can also attack with it. So 70 HP, Psychic type, single retreat. Setup, this is your power. So once your turn, when you bench Uxie, you can draw until you have 7 cards in your hand. So great to have that draw ability early game if that's what you need off of a collector. And then also Psychic Restore for 1 Psychic does 20, and then you can put Uxie and all cards attached to it to the bottom of your deck if you would like. So being able to reuse that as well is a good option to have. Then you're playing 2 Unown Q. This is kind of a personal preference. I just think Unown Q is so good for finding Spiritombs. Like everything has 1 retreat. That's a basic. So if you have a collector, you can just go collector for Q, Spiritomb, and X. Let's say you started Gastly, you want to find the Oddish, then you automatically hit it. And if you prize Q, it's really bad for your mobility because you want it on multiple things. Usually you want it on at least 1 Spiritomb, and then you can also put it on a Vileplume so that it has single retreat. So I don't know. It really depends, but I think that 2Q is really, really solid. And you're also playing 1 Azelf, so this is just for prizes. 70 HP, single retreat, time walk is the ability on this guy, or the power rather. So yeah, I guess you could hit a power for 20 on. No, I forgot to mention that. But yeah, so time walk, when you bench Azelf, you can look at your prizes, take a Pokemon you find there, put it in your hand, and then replace that card in your prizes with a card in your hand. So being able to, find the Gengar Lv.X, or if you're missing 2 pieces of the Vileplume line or whatever you're missing, being able to Azelf for it is actually very, very nice. And then you can also lock up, so for 1 Psychic, it does 20, and the defending Pokemon can't retreat during their next turn. So you're also playing a Blissey line. This is another, I read the article, Yassine did an article on a forum about his run, and he just talked about how important Blissey was. And after thinking about it, I think Blissey's a super pivotal inclusion in this deck, and I actually don't think you can validly run this deck without Blissey anymore because it counters the counters to this deck. So anyway, the Chansey's got 90 HP, colorless type, 2 retreat, healing trial for 1 colorless, flip a coin. If heads, remove 3 damage counters from Chansey. If tails, remove 3 damage counters from the defending Pokemon. So pretty bad, but okay early game if you have nothing else to do, I guess. And then pulled punch for 2, it does 40, and then if the defending Pokemon already has any damage counters on it, it does 10 instead of 40. So 2 for 40 is actually not so bad. But you play it for this guy. So the Blissey, 120 HP, colorless type, 2 retreat, MD-CoL is the power. So once on your turn before you attack, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, remove 2 damage counters from one of your Pokemon. So this is really important because of Feigning Spell. So Feigning Spell only works if this Gengar is knocked out. So one of the ways that a lot of decks can get around that is Crobat. Gyarados, SP, they both play Crobat. And so being able to go, yeah, I'm going to hit the Gengar for 100 or hit it for 90, and then go bat. And then if I have option to, use trainers, go Poketurn, bat again, and then the bat knocks the Gengar out. And since it's not damaged from an attack, the Feigning Spell doesn't take place. So that's actually a really big deal, and it's a main strategy that a lot of decks can use to get around that. So what they do is that, obviously hit you for 100, and then they kill you with a bat potentially next turn. But how you get around that is MD-CoL. So let's say they hit you for 100, a Dialga Chomp, hits with a loss, remove lost for 100, and they're ready to bat you next turn. Then you can just go Nurse Call, heal 20, and all of a sudden they need to hit bat 2 Poke turns, which, especially for trainer locking, is a really big ask. So being able to kind of manipulate your numbers like that. And also, another really good part about Blissey is you can rotate around Gengars later in the game because you play multiple of them. So when you're retreating through Gengars, let's say you get hit for 60, you retreat to another Gengar, heal it, retreat to a third Gengar, heal it again, and then by the time it's ready to attack, you can Nurse Call to heal all the damage off. So being able to, because they have free retreat, you have a lot of mobility there, and it's a really, really solid Poke power. Also, the attack on it's not so bad. So for 1, it does 20, and then you draw cards until you have 6 in your hand, return. And then double edge if you're in a real big pinch and you have nothing else going on, for 4 energy, which is really big. 100, and then Blissey does 60 to itself. So really, really bad. But I guess if you have no other option, that's kind of something you could do. Then you're also playing 3 Broken Time Space. This is going to be kind of a weird list because this list doesn't play any trainers. It just plays supporters and energy and Pokemon. But yeah, 3 BTS, so Broken Time Space. Each player may evolve a Pokemon that they played or evolved during that turn. So each Pokemon can evolve as much as they want, which is really good because it means you can get Vileplumes out on turn 1. That's the main reason you play it, because as soon as you hit that Vileplume lock turn 1, if you hit that before your opponent even plays trainer, or turn 2, I guess, because you can't play trainers on the first turn. But it gives you that option to do it on your turn 1 going second, or turn 2 if you're going first. So Broken Time Space, great, and it just lets you get those cards out of your hand as well, to utilize the Uxies a little bit better as well. Okay, and you're also playing 4 Pokemon Collector, so this is really staple in this format. Such a good card. Pokemon Collector, search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon, show them to your opponent, put them in your hand. So it just finds so many pieces, right? Like you can get the Gastly, you can get Oddish, you can get Spiritomb, Uxie, Unown Q, Chansey, Azelf. It really depends on what your hand and board looks like. But yeah, just being able to get all those pieces is really big. As soon as you hit like Spiritomb, Oddish, Gastly, or like I was saying with the Unown Q before, you just retreat to the Spiritomb, you're locking or trainers, and then you can also just start setting up with Darkness Grace on the Spiritomb. The really, really solid option that this deck has, and that's why I play 4, because it's so important. And you're also playing 4 Bebe Search because finding evolutions is just as important. So choose a card from your hand, put it on the top of your deck, search your deck for a Pokemon, show it to your opponent, and put it in your hand. So mainly just to find the evolutions, but also good to find the basics if that's what you need to do. And then you're also playing 3 Twins. So Twins is a really good card in this deck because oftentimes you go down because you're a spread deck. So Twins, you may only use this card if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. Search your deck for 2 cards and put them in your hand. So great, great, great card. Just lets you figure out your combos. You know, as soon as you're hitting Vileplume and Poltergeist on the Gengar, you're hitting for massive damage with a Pokemon that can also knock out if they're getting knocked out with Feigning Spell. So being able to just Twins and find your Vileplume pieces or Broken Time Space, or really whatever you need. It searches for any 2 cards. So it's such a versatile card depending on what your hand and board is. I'm also playing some tech supporter cards. So Copycat is great because you're trainer locking your opponent, and oftentimes they're going to have a pretty big hand. So Copycat, shuffle your hand to your deck, count the number of cards in your opponent's hand, and then draw that many cards. You're also playing a Looker's Investigation, kind of in that same vein of kind of figuring out your opponent's hand and working on that. So look at your opponent's hand, then choose you or your opponent. That player shuffles their hand into his or her deck and draws 5 cards. So it's usually you, but if your opponent has a really big like Dialga turn where they play a Dialga and then play a ton of trainers from their hand, they only have like 2 cards in their hand, and you really want to Poltergeist KO, you can shuffle them back and just hope that they hit some trainers so that you can Poltergeist them for a lot of damage. You also play a Seeker. So Seeker is mainly for healing, which it's really, really good at. So Seeker, each player puts one of his or her bench Pokemon and all cards attached into her hand. So what you can do is if your Gengar takes a hit, you can retreat it to the bench for free to another Gengar, Seeker, and then drop it all back down again if you have a Broken Time Space, which is really, really solid. Something to just be careful of with this card, though, is if you're using Shadow Room to snipe damage, just know that your opponent also gets to take 1 up. So usually what you want to do is Shadow Room, kill, take a hit, and then use the Seeker. So you're also playing 1 Palmer's Contribution. So this is your recovery card. So search your discard pile for 5 and any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards. Show them to your opponent and shuffle them into your deck. So just a really good Pokemon and energy recovery card there. You're also playing 6 Psychic, just because it's important to have that Psychic for Poltergeist on the Gengar and as well as Shadow Room. But you don't need more than 6 because you only need 1 on each Gengar. And you're also playing a Palmer, so it's actually quite a lot. 6 is super fine. Some decks play 7, but I've been really fine with 6 in my testing. Okay, so you're also playing 3 Call. So in that same vein of Pokemon search being really important, Call energy, it's a colorless energy, but if it's attached to your active Pokemon, you can end your turn and then search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench. So really good if you start a Spiritomb and a Call. You can just go Call on the Spiritomb, Call for a Gastly and an Oddish, and then all of a sudden your game's going. And then you also have that energy to retreat the Spiritomb later, so that's kind of nice as well. And then you're also playing 3 Rescue Energy. So there's 2 main uses for this guy. Rescue Energy is another colorless energy. If it's attached to one of your Pokemon and that Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack, you take that. I think it's just the Pokemon. I don't think it's all cards attached. Yeah, discard the cards attached, but put the Pokemon back into your hand. So the Pokemon, all the Pokemon lines go back into your hand. So being able to take the whole usually what you do is you put it on a Vileplume, and then if your opponent targets the Vileplume, then you get to put it back in your hand. If you have broken time space, you just drop it all down again, so they don't get a turn of trainers still. But it's also really good on a Gengar, because being able to, if you know, it depends what your board's like, but if you only have the one Gengar, being able to, you know, let the Gengar die, bring it back up, promote a Spiritomb with a Q or something else with a Q, drop it all back down, attach an energy, and then all of a sudden you're just attacking again. So rescue energy is just great for keeping your Pokemon on the board, because that's where they need to be. You're also playing 2 warp energy, so these special energy kind of keep you mobile. So warp energy, when you attach it to your active Pokemon, you have to switch with one of your bench Pokemon. But this is great because it just forces a switch and gets your Vileplumes out of the active, is the main thing that's for. Because some things drag up the Vileplume, and that can be a really big pain in the butt. Blaziken FB especially is really, really a pain for Vileplume decks to deal with. But when you have warp energy, then it's not so bad, because then you can go warp energy, hopefully kill the Blaziken with a Gengar, and then it's not really an issue anymore. Okay, well, this has been Vilegar from Majestic Dawn to Call of Legends. If you have any questions about the deck, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get to them. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next time.